As the world prepared for the festivities of the last month of the year, some of the men and women who live by the gloves stepped into the ring one last time to cap their year with pulsating and breathtaking performances that saw them smiling to the banks. A good number closed the year with a deadly knockout. Noo Ino vs Marlon Tapers. With this match, Noo Ino became the second male boxer to be undisputed in two weight categories and the third boxer to achieve that in the year 2023. But it also made him the first undisputed super bantamweight champion of the four-belt era. Ino announced his arrival at the super bantamweight when he disposed the reigning WBC and WBO champion Tevin Tevin in 8 rounds. And less than 6 months after, he dethroned Marlon Tapers, the reigning IBF and WBA champion. The fight with Tapers was no walk in the park. Though Ino rallied and dropped Tapers in round 4 as a sign of what was to come. Instead of the knockdown facing Tapers, it made him more competitive. But Ino's hand speed and creative selection of shots carried the day, making it possible for Ino to land thundering shots from near impossible angles even before Tapers could see it coming. More ferocious and deadly punches landed for Ino as the rounds passed. In round 10, the monster's right hand split Tapers' guard, and shortly after that he sent another massive right that found its place without the buffering of a guard. Tapers acknowledged the impact of the right by stumbling backwards and falling to his knee, unable to continue. Garcia vs Oscar Duarte. Garcia returned to the ring and back to winning ways 8 months after his first career loss to Gervonta Davis. He was up against a heavy puncher and had during the press conference hinted that his promoters hoped he would be knocked out. Well, he was not knocked out, but he was a comic spectacle for the most part of the bout as he tried to use the Philly shell moves popularized by Mayweather Jr. This did not make the fight lackluster because both fighters pressed action, but Garcia's hand speed and power shots carried the day. In round 8, Garcia landed a sweeping left hook that hurt Duarte and followed it up with a barrage of deadly punches that dropped Duarte, who could not beat the count. Ballam-Smith vs Mateusz Masternak. Ballam-Smith ended his 2023 with a successful first defense of his WBO Cruiserweight World Champion, which he won from Lawrence Okolie back in May. Ballam-Smith and Masternak met at the Bournemouth International Centre in Bournemouth, and while Ballam-Smith was favoured to win by most, he had a hard start. As the fight wore on, he made frequent calls on Masternak's midsection, making sure to knock hard at the door of his ribs. His power shots to Masternak's rib paid off greatly in the course of the fight. It slowed Masternak, making him relatively easy to be hit and often with deadly shots. At the end of round 7, when Masternak slumped on his toe at the corner, he never came back to the match. The referee waved and it was over. Just like that, Ballam-Smith made the first successful defense of his WBO world title. Jose Rodriguez vs Sonny Edwards. Jose Rodriguez became a unified champion of the flyweight division when he added the IBF title to his WBO title. But to do so, Rodriguez had to take the belt from a blind man, one he blinded over the course of 9 rounds of action-packed aggressive slugfest that saw both fighters sling, land and take deadly shots from each other. Rodriguez had the upper hand of the encounter that had in supply abundance of stiff jabs, hooks drilled to the fighters' bodies and heads, overhand lefts and rights and left crosses as well as sweeping shots. The stiff jabs from Rodriguez had produced a cut over Edwards' left and right eyes. His other shots had severely marked Edwards' face and bloodied it almost beyond recognition. But it was a jab to the body followed by an overhand left that dropped Eduardo on the canvas in round 9. He survived the round but never returned to the fight as he could not see out of either eyes. This left his corner with no choice but to end the bout, handing Rodriguez a round 9 RTD victory. Daniel Dubois vs Jarrell Miller. Over a 10-round scheduled heavyweight encounter in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, Daniel Dubois pulled a last-second stoppage in the last round over the 300-pound Geral Miller. With this victory, Dubois hopes he has reasserted himself as a force to reckon with in the heavyweight category following his two disappointing losses to Joe Joyce and Alexander Usyk. Dubois started with promise, landing jabs and nice 1-2, fighting on his back foot as the rounds went by, and Miller remained hell-bent on throttling forward despite Dubois' punches. Dubois became daring, attempting a punch and pushed toe-to-toe with Miller. Though Miller is not a power puncher, he has weight enough to tire and slow any fighter who thinks pushing him around is a good strategy. So it did not come as a surprise that Dubois began to tire and Miller landed some good shots. But in the last seconds of the last round, Dubois took back the fight, landing combos including a right uppercut that knocked Miller back, right cross plus other deadly combinations. Anthony Joshua vs Otto Wallin. Anthony Joshua made his third successful comeback and his second victory within the distance after his back-to-back loss to Alexander Usyk. His victim was the Swedish southpaw Otto Wallin, whom he finished in 5 rounds. Joshua set sail early in the match, battering Otto Wallin with combos delivered over stiff jabs. A right, cross-left hook and a coughing right in the 5th round stood out among all the combos Joshua threw in the bout. This combo hurt Wallin so badly that he retired at his corner at the end of the 5th round. Life is a band.
Protect yourself at all times.
Fight hard, fight clean.